All right, Ainsley, thank you. Many on the political left were swift in expressing outrage over to President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, but now some might even have a problem with the man's name.
I don't know much about Kavanaugh, but I'm skeptical because his name is Brett. That sounds less like a Supreme Court justice and more like a waiter at Ruby Tuesdays.
And the personal attacks don't stop there, so are they going too far? Brittany Hughes is with the Media Research Center. She is also the managing editor of MRC-TV. She joins us live right now from San Diego. Brittany, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I like Ruby Tuesdays, just saying. They've got delicious ribs. What do you make of the questioning of his name? Or is that just a joke?
If it's a joke, it's obviously not a very funny one. I mean, you're talking about the same people who had absolutely no problem with the name Merrick 2 years ago. I mean, are you kidding me? Now you're going to go after Brett? It just goes to show that this outrage is completely drummed up. It's completely fake. I mean, you're talking about a side of the aisle that had protest signs made up for every single potential Trump SCOTUS nominee before he had even announced a name. Now they're going after him for having the name Brett, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I feel like at this point, some conservatives had more legitimate concerns with Kavanaugh than the liberals do. While some conservatives were talking about, you know, his rulings on Obamacare, you know, liberals are talking about his name and whether or not the man likes baseball. I mean, are you kidding me here? Do we not have anything more legitimate to talk about than the name Brett? That's ridiculous.
I tell you what, they want to stop him, and right now they don't have the votes to do that. But, you know, Brittany, they're missing the big story, and it sounds like he's got gambling debts or something like this, because you look at the headlines. For instance, in The Atlantic, it says the mystery of Brett Kavanaugh's baseball ticket debt. Washington Post says Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh piled up credit card debt by purchasing national tickets, and then it goes on and on. It did sound like it was something serious, but then you reveal he loves baseball, he'll buy season tickets, he'll charge it, and he got into a little hot water, apparently.
Well, see, and this is what happens when you run with a headline versus actually looking at the story. So the Washington Post had come out with this story saying that that Kavanaugh had racked up, it was somewhere between $60,000 and $200,000 in debt over the last 10 years, buying season tickets to the Nationals. But what they didn't tell you until the 5th paragraph of their story is that this is debt that actually was paid off or fell below reporting requirements by 2017, so it didn't even matter. Not to mention, he was buying seasons tickets for a lot of his friends, and those friends reimbursed him for those baseball tickets. So essentially the story boiled down to the man put baseball tickets on a credit card and paid it off. That's their hard-hitting story. That's what apparently makes this man unqualified to sit on the Supreme Court bench. You know, you want to talk about reaching here. I feel like, you know, this is... I mean, how is that unrelatable at all to Americans that the man had credit card debt and that he paid it off? Well, that's barely even a story.
They're looking for anything. They did the same thing with Gorsuch. But you know what? I remember back in the olden days when the Senate would simply look at a president's nominee and figure out whether or not they were reasonable and essentially fit to be a Supreme Court justice. It was just an up or down. But now it's so politically toxic in Capitol Hill, you wind up with this.
Well, I mean, you listen to what the man said as soon as Trump announced him as the nominee. He came out, he actually gave a very middle-of-the-road speech about how he plans to uphold the Constitution as it is written, that he plans to interpret the law as impartially as he can. That's something that's not a partisan issue. That's something that everybody on all sides of the aisle should support. That's something that's what his job will be if he is confirmed. That shouldn't be a partisan issue. But again, ultimately what this comes down to is this is not about Kavanaugh. It wouldn't have been about Barrett. It wouldn't have been about Hardiman if they had been nominated. What this comes down to is this is about Trump. This is about smearing Trump. This is why the same side of the aisle had protest signs made up for every possible nominee. They were going to oppose whoever it was, no matter who it was. I mean, the Women's March came out with a ridiculous press statement where they even forgot to fill in Kavanaugh's name. They had 2 X's written on it because, again, they were going to oppose him no matter who he picked.
That's right.